Hey, I want to go back to, real quick, 2006, which was 20 years ago. Oh my God. Yeah, 20 years ago. So I was at DARPA, working for Tony Tether, and at that time, we were doing some pretty crazy stuff. I mean, just radical ideas. How about a self-driving car? Crazy idea. Never worked right, but we tried it, ran a couple competitions, and guess what? It works. How about responsive launch? So we funded this young internet entrepreneur to launch these Falcon rockets. First two blew up. We funded both of those. You don't see that in the Isaacson's bio, by the way, but yeah, DARPA was there. How about on-orbit servicing and refueling? Yeah. There's another crazy idea, and look at the companies we have back here 20 years later. Well, there was another crazy idea that was going on about that time, and I started it. But before we get to that crazy idea, let's talk about where we were. How did we build satellites back then? The primary driver about life cycle costs for spacecraft was one thing: launch cost. And so you put all the parameters into the magic algorithm inside the computer, and the answer came back: put as much stuff as you can into a satellite as large as possible that can launch on the biggest possible rocket, and you've optimized it. If we could have, back in those days, if we could have launched a space station-sized satellite, we probably would have done it. So I had this crazy idea. What if you took a satellite like that, which has all these different problems, amongst them risk, non-serviceability, et cetera, and you broke it down into its fundamental subsystems physically, and you network those physical subsystems like ADCS, like power? Could you do that? Could you create a virtual spacecraft out of those components to give you the same capability as that? And we called that thing System F6. So what we're trying to do was show that you could create this virtual spacecraft, and a couple of things happened along the way. One was, well, it's kind of hard to take ADCS out of and fly it by itself. Well, you can actually do that, believe it or not, with something called electromagnetic formation flight. But F6 progressed and evolved and went through a couple different shutdowns and restarts. We discovered one thing: the value was really in creating different services, separate, disparate services, like compute, like networking, or data transport. That's what came out of F6. And even though the program never launched, you know, if you look around the industry and what's going on in proliferated LEO, there are many cousins out there. There's a cousin right there. Hey, cousin Greg. That started with this crazy idea of F6. So where are we at today? Proliferated LEO. So P-LEO has really taken a lot of those things we've learned in terms of the flexibility offered by F6, the speed that was advantaged that we could possibly get by focusing on smaller spacecraft, the upgradability advantages over time, et cetera. And we've created, through either what SDA is doing with proliferated warfighter architectures, or SpaceX is doing with Starlink, we've created these various shells of services: transport, sensing, et cetera. Well, there's one missing, and that one missing now is what Dennis brought up with compute. So where does this go now with compute now in proximity to where the data is collected and needs to be processed? And what's that next revolution? Well, for me, that next revolution really is a couple of crazy ideas. So what's going to ride on this compute? AI services. And not just individual AI applications, but AI agents that cover the entire workflow across what needs to happen on orbit, from commanding, scheduling, to all of the processing demanded to basically answer questions. And more than answer questions, it's going to create a capability for, and this is going to be global, terrestrial, maritime, and in space, for humans to create what some people have called cognitive exoskeletons. Really an enabling capability to enhance our own situational awareness, decision-making, and capabilities. I focus here especially on this real-time orientation you see down here at the bottom. If anybody here happens to be a fan of military strategist John Boyd, creator of the OODA loop, most people will say, aha, Boyd's OODA loop. The faster OODA loop wins. No. You've had a very short reading of John Boyd's theory, because John Boyd says that there's one clear aspect of winning, and that could be in the military, that can be in business, etc., whichever. It is through the better orientation, the better understanding of the situation, because that drives all else, including our decision making. So that's the vision of where we go, and especially now enabled by adding the data center into that new service layer across the new P-LEO architecture. And with that, Andrew, I think I gave you just about right amount of time.
All right, thanks for sticking around. I know this is the last talk of the day. Lots of talk about what's up in space, clouds in space, hardware in space. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to get some of this data down from space, and data that actually everyone here probably uses every single day. So I sit on the remote sensing side of the space industry, so electro-optical SAR satellites that are used for all different types of use cases. Whoops. So we're surrounded by space-based data every day. There's never been a better time to be in this industry, I think, and there's never been a better time to be a customer in this industry. I've been doing this for a long time, and I've gotten calls over the years about customers wanting to monitor things very frequently, and the costs were either too high or the capability just wasn't there, or the governments had taken all the capacity. The challenge is, well, now there's those applications, those requests are now well within reach. But the challenge still is, how do you get access to this data? It's still very, very difficult. So that's the first problem. The second problem is the more satellites that we launch, and the curve is just going up. I just talked to someone today about the wait list for SpaceX and the other launch providers. It's getting longer. So there'll be more and more satellites in space, but how do you get the answers from that data, and how do you get it quickly? That's challenge number 2. So the EO value chain, you guys all know this very well. Upstream is just data capture. That's where the satellites, sensors, launch providers, orbital operations exist. Midstream data handling, this ground segment, data storage, data cataloging, processing. SkyFi, the company I work for, we sit right here at data exploitation. So it's all about how do you get access to this great data. So it's about platforms, about AI, ML, and all different types of applications. And then the most important stakeholder in this value chain is, of course, the customer, the people we're all trying to sell to. So just to further elaborate on those two problems I mentioned, the data sources are fragmented.
Will start at 4 p.m. Please make your way to the Tangerine Ballroom. Thank you.
Thank you for that. They're fragmented. The procurement process is very complex, and you have to be a subject matter expert on the type of data that you want, depending on the type of question you want to ask the data. The way to grow this market is to remove those barriers and to open up data access. So at SkyFi, this is what we've done. We've built a network of partners, over 50 different satellite operators that we partnered with, and a number of different analytic providers, provide customers with access to all these great sensors. So we're multimodal. We've got access to optical, SAR, hyperspectral, and when none of the space-based assets work, we can always look to aerial. We offered a very, very simplified procurement. It's as easy as clicking the mouse 6 times. You can actually order an image. It's pay as you go. There's no subscription fee or anything like that. And then because we have all these sensors working behind the scenes on our platform, the revisit time or monitoring applications or anything you can think of is now well within reach because of all this great technology and great hardware in space. So I want you guys just to maybe put yourself in a customer's shoes here for a minute. You want to get a satellite image. And I think most of us would probably go to Google Maps, right? Or Bing Maps or Apple Maps. It's all great sources of imagery. Depending on what question you're asking the data, this could be fine. But if you want to know what's changed, you may not get a very good answer. You may get an outdated information source. So I know that this image on Google Maps is old because that is the most recent image that was taken last week. This is of a data center in Abilene, Texas. These data centers are being built at incredible speeds. So that's the first challenge that you're looking at. The second challenge, in order to get that image, is contact an operator, and you'll have an email exchange, maybe 4, 5, 6, until you get a quote. You might have to sign a contract for a minimum annual commitment. You might have to sign an NDA. I've been guilty of this because I was on that side. There might be licensing delays, and your project timeline might slip. So that's just not a great way of getting an information source in this day and age when information should flow very freely. So let's say, again, you're the customer. You want to look back in time. You want to look at the historical archives. You know the data's there, but you're signed up with one provider, Vantor, great company, formerly known as Maxar, before that Digital Globe, one of the pioneers in remote sensing, commercial imagery space. I know there's a gap. They don't have an image over that location in January or in February, and the one in March is cloudy. So I've got 1 out of 4. That's not going to help me solve my problem. But if I tap into our platform, which offers data from all these different providers, I can get an image from Satellogic, another great provider, Planet, another great provider, and then the Vantor imagery here, yeah, there's still that cloud. So what do we do about that? Well, that's when we leverage synthetic aperture radar data. We now have access to very, very high resolution synthetic aperture radar data, 30 centimeter. That's the same resolution as some of those images up there. SAR can see through clouds. It can see at night. You can image at any time of day. Great solution. And then if all else fails, you can always turn to aerial. We offer that as well. So just a quick time lapse of all the imagery that's been captured over this particular area in the past year. These things are going up lightning fast. It's really impressive. And then, of course, there's the questions you want to ask the data. Lots of stakeholders you can imagine in a data center. There's the hyperscalers, there's the investors, there's the insurers, there's the local government. I could be in the turbine business. These are all gas turbines. Those are a hot commodity right now. I could just want to know how many are look like they're ready to be operational. So just a bit about SkyFi here, veteran-led team. trusted network, mission ready, cost efficient, all that good stuff. And then last but not least, if you want to order a satellite image, you can order it on your phone right here. You can order a new satellite image for about $200. You can order it over Orlando. And then if something's in the archive, you can pay about $25 for a 50 centimeter high resolution image. If you want a 30 centimeter image, it's going to cost you 32. But that's just an example of how costs have come down pretty significantly here. And everyone should be able to access this data, and that's what we're trying to do. So that's all I got. Thank you.